The Maple Leafs reshaped their roster with four impactful signings in free agency. Hey everyone, welcome into another Sun Sports Roundtable. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Sports columnist Steve Simmons and Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writer Lance Hornby. And guys, it was a busy first couple of days for new GM Brad Treliving, signing John Klingberg, Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, and Ryan Reeves. So far, Steve, out of those four, which one do you like the most?
I think I like Bertuzzi the most if he's healthy. And that's a big if because he's been hurt a lot over the last several years. But when he's healthy, he's a very good player and a sound winger and a guy who does some of the things that the Leafs don't do. He scored 5 goals for the Bruins in the playoffs in the one round they played. So he can put the puck in the net when needed. And I think for a winger to play with either Matthews or Marner or Tavares and Nylander, no matter where you put him, I think he's going to be a great fit so long as he stays healthy.
You know what? I'm going to go off the board a bit, Steve, and say Klingberg, only because he's a defenseman, which the Leafs have needed. They've needed a hard shot back there. I read your comments about him, I think, via Scout being soft as a pillow or whatever. I'll have to see, though, because I think it wasn't that long ago he was getting a couple of Norris Trophy votes. It's been a few years, of course. Had a very rough year last time with Anaheim before a trade to Minnesota that sort of got him back in the groove. And listening on the conference call yesterday with him, he thinks there are better days ahead. And I think in a system with some great offensive players like Toronto has, he could make a difference. And they have lost Luke Shen. He's not a physical guy, as I said before, but they needed help on D, and they got it. Probably more to come in that area, though.
The one thing the Leafs have not had in any way for a very long time is a defenseman with a big slap shot, a guy from the point. And I think that's the one thing I like about bringing in Klingberg is he is very good offensively in the zone, on the power play in particular. And you look at how many goals are scored, especially in playoff time. It's a slap shot to the net, puck deflected, it goes off somebody's rear end, it goes off somebody's knees, it just bounces off somehow. When you don't have a guy that can make that shot, and God bless Morgan Riley, he does not have a slap shot.
Yeah,
So,
and and the Leafs, to your point, the Leafs never get those kind of goals. It seems,
so
it's not good.
they're being
You know,
denied that, and I
yeah,
think Klingberg will bring that offensively. I just
yeah.
worry about what he gives away on the other side of the net. Other side of
Yeah, and you did mention Bertuzzi. I mean, who knows where he fits in the first or second unit? But there's a guy who can knock those goals in if indeed Klingberg can get it to the net.
Guys, shifting from the free agent signings to a player that needs a contract extension. That, of course, is William Nylander. And Lance reports suggesting right now that these two sides are kind of far apart right now when it comes to the negotiations. Can the Leafs let William Nylander go into the season without a new deal, or does there need to be some sort of resolution before the start of the season?
Well, as everyone knows, and Steve and I covered it extensively a few years ago, this guy's not afraid, and his agent isn't afraid to play chicken with the Maple Leafs well into the season. There has to be, I think, some consideration of a trade, certainly, and I think public sentiment a few years ago was sign this guy, he's young and we need him, and now it's, you know what, they've added these other guys here, and there has to be a sacrificial lamb for what happened in the playoffs, and why not make that William Nylander, especially if he's going a little bit outlandish, I think, on the north side of $9 million and maybe a $10 million AAV that he's asking for.
If he wasn't asking to be traded before, I believe he's basically asking to be traded now. The money he wants, they won't pay him. And as Lance points out, he's stubborn and he will sit out and he will do that if need be. That said, I think he's the most likely guy to be traded. And we know Brad Treliving wants a better defense. He wants a bigger defense. He likes big, long defensemen. So I can see a kind of a deal where one of the Leafs' best offensive players, Nylander, goes for some kind of defensive package, or what I pointed out before, if you could ever get Elias Lindholm out of Calgary, who's having some similar contract issues and stay in Calgary issues with the Flames, if you could ever get him for Nylander, that changes your whole lineup up front because you put in a center like Lindholm as your second line center, you move John Tavares to the wing, and then suddenly your whole team changes. And I think the Leafs need to change. And I think Brad Treliving believes they need to change.
Yeah, well, you know what, and Tree Living House obviously has a history at Lindholm too. That would make sense, but I really think that what's going to affect anything with Nylander is that not a lot of people have a lot of money, and I think he's, if he hasn't figured it out by now, he's in for a bit of a shock when he and Lewis Gross, his agent, go shopping. That there may not be other teams willing to pay that, and that's certainly going to complicate both his contract in Toronto and maybe a trade. But I'm with Steve. I mean, if he doesn't come down, I think there's a healthy appetite in Toronto to move him, and I think public sentiment is with Brad Treliving right now to do that.
And the contract right now is friendly. The contract they have for this coming season is friendly.
Yes.
It's the season after this one where it gets complicated.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. It's been a busy offseason over the last couple of days here. We'll see what's in store for the Maple Leafs over the next couple of weeks. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For Steve Simmons and Lance Hornby, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another Sun Sports Roundtable.